The first edition of the Giants 53-man roster was set earlier today, but there's already been a change. How many more changes will there be? We'll discuss it next on the Big Blue Breakdown Live. Hello again, everybody. I'm Paul Dottino. Welcome to Big Blue Breakdown Live here on the New York Giants on SI Media Network. So glad you could join us tonight. Everybody knows this has been a very hectic week around the NFL. Over 1,300 players got released yesterday. Teams scrambles as they got down to their final 53, and then changes started to get made today. Waiver claims went in. Practice squad guys had to get signed. There'll be more tryouts around the NFL tomorrow. So many things to talk about, and I'm just going to guess that you folks have an awful lot to say as well. Now, we'll be talking shortly in the next couple weeks about a new feature that we're going to add to Big Blue Breakdown Live that's going to make it a lot easier for you guys to chat with me and even get a little more up close and personal. We'll talk about that in the coming weeks. But for now, we've still got the chat room up, and I see Watson Graves has already come up with a comment right away. He couldn't wait. He goes, Giants and Jets had to be one of the worst games I ever watched. Yeah, well, I got the two news for you, Watson. That was one of the worst preseason games I've ever seen, and preseason finales in recent years have been really, really rough. That one was about as bad as it could get. That is true, no question. The Giants went into the game scratching 44 of their 90 players, including 10 players who had been injured and were not practicing during the week. And then by the time that game actually got around to being played, think about it, right? 44 scratches leaves you 46 players who you're going to use in the game, and those guys were all back of the depth chart guys, outside of Casey Kreider, the punter, Jamie Gillen, and JMS, the starting center, who played a dozen snaps. Okay, those were the only three starters who played in the game. I suppose you could count Isaiah McKenzie was fighting for a starting job as a punt returner. He played in the game, got injured, and then landed on injured reserve, so he's out for the season. And then I guess the other big name that played in the game was Evan Neal, and he played 21 snaps with the second unit as the right tackle and gave up a sack on the edge, but the rest of his snaps graded out very well. So it was a good step in the right direction for Evan Neal. But we're not talking so much about that Giants-Jet game right now. We will be glad to address that if you want to come through with some questions and some comments. I'll do that. But I think right now, at this point, it's more important to talk about what's going on today with the roster, and then we will touch upon any other comments that you want to talk about. First up, you know the Giants submitted their 53-man roster on Tuesday at 4 o'clock Eastern Time like every NFL team did. Well, already the Giants have made a swap out. They did put in one waiver claim, and they were awarded the player. That's free safety Anthony Johnson, a second-year defensive back from the Green Bay Packers who played college football at Iowa State. Did not play a whole lot as a rookie with the Packers, and so I'm not sure exactly what it is that they see in him to make him their fourth safety, whether or not they think he can play some safety, or maybe they just think he could be really good on special teams. I'm not sure about that right now. We're going to have to see once he gets here, passes his physical, and gets on the field. But here's what I can say, okay? I can say that Javarius Owens is one of those unlucky players who made the initial 53 and found out today that he was released. This is what happens the day after that first 53 comes out. And so Owens is now gone through waivers. We will have to find out tomorrow if he cleared. If he does and nobody claims him, the Giants could re-sign him as a street free agent to the practice squad. And being that he's been here for a little over a year and he was a draft pick, it wouldn't shock me if they do that. I know they do like his physical tools, but for one reason or another, well, last year certainly they had Xavier McKinney, who didn't miss a snap, Jason Pinnock, who only missed a couple, and Dane Belton was their third safety. And every time he got in the game, and there wasn't a lot of playing time for Belton, he did well. So there was really no chance for Javarius Owens to really play. So, you know, he was kind of caught in a logjam. He got dinged up here during the preseason last couple of weeks and didn't get on the field. So I'm curious to see if they bring him back to the practice squad tomorrow. I would be more surprised if they don't, but who's to say? What I do know is that General Manager Joe Schoen did tell the media today that they are going to have tryouts come in tomorrow. Now, these guys will probably be street free agents. You got to remember something. The way that the NFL rules work, and I want to explain this to you because it's very important that you understand this. Any player who has less than 4 years experience has to get waived and pass through waivers where his contract can get claimed by another team. Waivers goes in order, reverse order of the standings of last year. So much like in the draft, the Giants get to pick 6th when they look at the waiver wire. Okay? Now, that goes on for about the first month of the season. And then they will reseed the waiver wire based on the current standings at that given time. I believe it's early October when they will reseed the standings for waiver picks. But right now, the Giants are the number 6th slot as waiver players come up on the board. Now, if the player has 4 years of NFL experience or more, when he gets released, he's cut. He's not waived. He's cut. He becomes an immediate street free agent and can sign with any team that wants him. That's the difference between waivers and being cut. The other thing is, if a player is waived and you pick him up, you have to take his contract with him. So that's why, in a lot of cases, teams will wait a day after, after the 53. Because, for example, let's say there was a waived player today that a team wants, but they don't like his contract. They think it's a little too rich. He's let's say, a 3-year vet. So what they'll do is they'll wait until waivers expire. You know, they're hoping, of course, that he doesn't get picked up by any other team. And then tomorrow, now that waivers have expired, that player becomes a street free agent. That's the key now with these younger players who are less than 4 years of experience. Waivers go for 24 hours. If nobody claims the player and his contract, the player becomes a street free agent. And now you're free to negotiate whatever deal you'd like with him. So it's entirely possible that there were some waived players yesterday that the Giants are interested in. They may in fact be part of this group that Joe Schoen says is going to come in for a tryout tomorrow. The difference being, now that they are free agents, you get to negotiate with them from scratch, and you do not have to pick up whatever contract that player had with his previous team. So I think it's important that everybody understands the logistics of this, because that's one of the reasons why maybe all of a sudden you'll see some guy tomorrow. It's like, well, why are they interested in him now? Or why did they bring him in now? Or why did they sign him now? Couldn't they just pick him up yesterday? No, there's a technicality here that really plays of significance within the status of the player. So I'm glad we got that squared away. I did want to tell you also that the Giants did fill out a practice squad roster, and there are a ton of familiar names that you will recall. I guess we'll probably go through those a little bit later, because I see there's a lot of folks now who want to try to ask some questions. So let me get in on some of these. Coach Ed Gladney's Amazing World of Sports says, thanks for the great coverage and insight. Hey, man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Coach. We enjoy talking Giants football, 25/8. That's 28 hours, 8 days a week. 25 hours, 8 days a week. Certainly enjoy doing it. And appreciate you guys for listening. And, whether it's the Big Blue Kickoff show on Giants.com during the week, or whether it's here on Big Blue Breakdown. The important thing is that we're talking Giants football, and we're getting ideas out there, and we're educating people, and we're letting them understand some of the things and the nuances of the rules, and we're telling them about stuff that happened in practice and all that good stuff. Because let's face it, if we can't talk football, then what's the point in being a fan? All right, John Morano, what do you got for me, John? The North Jersey local paper ranked Jermaine Illuminor as the #1 new starter for the Giants, ahead of Malik Neighbors and Brian Burns. Do you think that's accurate? I think that's preposterous. That's absolutely laughable. Brian Burns has had double-digit sacks in a season and has gone to a Pro Bowl. Now, Jermaine Illuminor is incredibly important, and maybe that's the problem here. Maybe the newspaper guy didn't define exactly what the context was of his statement. Yes, Jermaine Illuminor is incredibly important because as of now, he's the starting right tackle. And he is a solid, functional, and reliable starting right tackle, who also, by the way, can be a solid, functional guard as well. So when you consider that the Giant right tackle spot has really not done very well in recent years, yes, is Illuminor important? Absolutely, he is important. Does he solve a problem that has really been aching this team for a while? Yes, that's also true. But in terms of overall impact and quality of player, which is how I interpret #1, you can't say anyone else but Brian Burns. You can't. I mean, Malik Neighbors has yet to take a real NFL snap. He's a rookie who may wind up being a Pro Bowl player one day. Certainly, I think it's possible he gets 1,000 yards as a rookie and becomes one of, I think it's between 15 and 20, I believe, rookie wide receivers who have had like at least 1,200 yards in a season. Or I can't remember exactly what the number is, but it's less than 24. And could he do that and become a potential Rookie of the Year candidate? Sure he could. But that's potential, right? That's potential. How can you make the guy #1, right? #1. I'm going off the term here. #1. #1 has to be Brian Burns. I mean, John, if you think otherwise, I'll be glad to listen. But, to me, you're talking about a guy, again, he's put up double-digit sacks. He's gone to the Pro Bowl. He is a significant impact player who is going to have a monumental impact on this defense. I think the Giants will be a top 10 defense in the NFL this year. I know the secondary is young and inexperienced. But see, what's the best thing you can do for a young and inexperienced secondary? Well, obviously, add an experienced veteran who can play. Okay, but short of adding a Deion Sanders, somebody who is literally going to lock down and erase half of a field, which you're not going to get, okay? Short of that, there's nothing else you can do to significantly help or impact the secondary, except add a ferocious impact pass rusher. That's the one spot where you can add one player and truly impact the secondary. It's not necessarily adding a guy to the secondary. It's adding a ferocious pass rusher. And when you combine him with Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau, the Giants should have one of the top pass rushers or top pass rushing fronts in the league. It changes everything when you have 3 headache players on that defensive front. The Giants only had 2. Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau is kind of getting to be a headache player right now. In his second season, he kind of showed double-digit sacks. He can start becoming one. He needs to take that full step and become a full-time headache player. He faded down the stretch in each of his first 2 NFL seasons. If Thibodeau can be consistent throughout the entire 17-game schedule, okay, and show that he's got enough gas to go into that 3rd gear all the way through, he will then officially become a full-fledged headache player. Dexter Lawrence already is. Brian Burns already is. Having 3 headache players on your front line, now that has a ripple effect across your entire defense, and it can significantly help this young and inexperienced secondary. So to me, it is hands down, Brian Burns is the, quote, #1 new starter for this New York Giants roster. I cannot see it any other way. All right. Thank you so much for the comment, John. Coach, everyone hit the like, subscribe, and select the notification and share it. Oh, hell. Hey, Coach, appreciate it. Coach Ed Gladney, once again. You know, Coach, look, I don't know what to say. I appreciate it. Promotion is probably the best sorts of flattery that you could get. And I like very much that you would like to continue to spread the word about this program. All right, my man Big Blue says, Paul, fact or fiction, we make the playoffs. I tell people all the time that I won't give a record prediction until I see the 63-man roster. Well, unlike in the old days when you got your 53 and then you played a game that weekend, there's a bye week until opening day against the Minnesota Vikings. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, I'm going to reserve the right to revise this comment pending upon what other acquisitions come through in the next week. But here's what I'll tell you, Big Blue. I believe the Giants have the ability to win 9 games this year, reasonably, and be a 9-8 football team. I don't think that's a stretch. I think that's logical. I think that's reasonable. I think there's enough of talent on this team to win 9 games. A bounce here, a bounce there, an injury here, an injury there. Who knows how things could turn, positively or negatively. But as I see it now, I think it's a 9-8 football team. Now, let's just say this. Big Blue, it's which 9 games you win. You and I both know this. You got to win the right 9 games because you're probably going to get caught in the 3rd wild card tiebreaker if you win 9. Okay? If you're even in it, unless a bunch of teams win 10 and you get shut out. But 9 wins can potentially get you into a tie for the 3rd wild card, which means it's all important about which games you win. And that may be it. I could easily see the Giants win 9 games, win the wrong 9, and wind up not making it. I could see them winning 9 games and having all the playoff teams win 10. And then the Giants don't make it anyway. So the only way you're going to make it with 9 wins is if you win the right games. So the odds are against you, given those 2 circumstances that could shut you out, There's one circumstance that gets you in with 9 wins. There's 2 circumstances that get you out with 9 wins. So I'm going to say it's more likely they don't make the playoffs. But if this team was 9-8 and put forth the winning record and was at least in the playoff race till the final weekend of the regular season, I suspect a lot of folks would be okay with that. And why not? Means the team is improving. The team is going in the right direction. Also probably means, if that happens, probably means Daniel Jones had a good enough season that they know he's the guy. And he'll be doing it here again in 2025. So I think there's a lot of positives to take out of a 9-8 season, even if they don't make the playoffs. And that's kind of where I'm sitting right now. But I do reserve the right to alter that opinion if something dramatic or drastic happens over the next couple of weeks. I mean, look, I'm not going to kid you. They know. They've already said, Joe Schoen already said today in this press conference, they've got the radar out to see if they can upgrade at cornerback too. And also, they don't have a professional slot in the nickel to back up 3rd-round draft pick rookie Drew Phillips. That's kind of sticky, don't you think? I mean, right now, if Cordell Flott is the outside boundary at CB2, then Nick McLeod becomes the backup slot as it stands right now. At least that's how it looks like on the roster. Now, if McLeod takes the boundary job, well, then Flott's the next guy up. But to be frank, I don't think Flott is a slot corner. I think that Flott is better on the boundary. Now, I talked to Cordell Flott today. He was out of practice today. All good. In fact, let me mention this to you now, folks, while we have the opportunity. 3 players were on the side today working with the trainers. Deontay Johnson, who landed on injured reserve earlier this afternoon. Micah McFadden, who obviously is ticketed for the starting lineup with Bobby Okereke at linebacker, and Lawrence Cager, who was brought back and signed to the practice squad today after he was waived yesterday. Those were the 3 players who were working on the side with the trainers today at practice. Everybody else on the roster was practicing. Now, this was a light kind of jog-through practice. They did individual drills. They did some deep red zone one-on-ones, did some 2-on-2s. But this was not a, quote, full practice session. It was a lot of positional drills, a lot of stuff of that nature, until later on in the session after, the media had been shut out, because the media does not get to watch the entire practice session from start to finish. So I can only describe to you what the open portion of practice was. And those are the 3 fellas who were working with the trainers on the side. So that's my answer to you, Big Blue. It's as complete and as honest as I can give you as we sit here today on Wednesday night. All right, let me go back here to Real Cold G. Wants to know how you're feeling about the cornerback room to this point. Well, it's very interesting. The Giants decided to keep 10 defensive backs on their 53. So Banks, Flott, Hawkins, McLeod, Phillips, those are your corners. Hawkins is a boundary corner. There's no question. Now, Flott's played both, as I just described before. Hawkins is strictly a boundary corner. Banks is a boundary corner. McLeod can play either. Phillips, I think, at this level, is strictly a slot corner. I would have to believe that even though Joe Schoen said it's kind of hard at this point to pick up any kind of quality cornerbacks, because let's face it, There are 32 teams in the league, right? Who's letting go of a good corner? It's a passing league. So corners are at a premium. They're hard to come by. So I don't necessarily believe that they're going to be able to find one, but we will see. If they can find an upgrade, the radar's out. We've been telling you that on the Big Blue Show, as the Big Blue Breakdown and on Big Blue Kickoff Live. I've been talking about this since the draft. The radar will be out to see if they can find an experienced corner who's got some pelts on his belt. I've talked about Ahkello Witherspoon now since March, since free agency. He played for the Rams last year. He's got some experience in this league. He's got a bunch of interceptions. He's 6'2". He's got length. Reasonably priced, I think. That's a street free agent that, in my mind, at least for me, has been a target for me. Again, I don't speak for the Giants. I will not speak for them. I am not in Joe Shane's office. I'm not like the HBO cameras, for Hard Knocks and eavesdropping in on what he's saying. And he's certainly not going to call me into the office to tell me. I'm simply telling you, as someone who knows this game and follows this game and gets paid to do it for a living, Witherspoon to me seems like a rational guy that I'd want to talk to if I were a general manager looking for an experienced corner to help out with some depth. But that's just me, and I've been saying that now since March, okay? Since before the draft. I don't second guess stuff. I'll tell you from the get-go because I spend a lot of time and a lot of waking hours overnights, thinking about this stuff. And that's a name that's intrigued me for a long time. All right. In any case, let's keep going now to somebody else. And then we're going to take a really, really fast break. All right, Jay Smith. Have you seen Jalin Hyatt take steps in this preseason compared to last year in terms of route running? Oh, my goodness. Jay, like night and day. There is no question, even though when you see him out of uniform, in T-shirt and shorts, he's still pretty fit. Okay, God bless him. All right. But he's not like a pencil stick anymore, or a pretzel stick, I should say. He has put in some meat, some definition, some maturing on his bones. And yes, I see him being more physical. He did not lose any of his speed. He's still blazing fast. And yes, because of the physicality, I see him now better able to fight off the kind of nastiness that opposing corners are going to give him out on the boundary. And yes, I do think he can effectively run his routes out there now. When he came out of the University of Tennessee, he was so spindly, like a spider almost. And I worried that he might just have to be a slot receiver. A lot of people thought he'd have to be a slot guy because that's what he did at Tennessee, and that's the route tree that he knew. So yes, did he have to expand the route tree? He absolutely did. He has spent countless hours over this last year learning. He's a very high-class, high-quality young man who has busted his butt to try to learn everything he can to become a better player. And quite frankly, I'm very impressed with his attitude. He's also a really good study. But on top of that, he added some strength and some definition to his bones. So it's not just having the book work and the film work and the ability to run those routes on the field. It's also having the physicality to ward off defensive backs to effectively run those routes that the Giants would like him to run as an outside wide receiver. And I, for one, have taken the ceiling off of Jalin Hyatt now. I don't want to put limitations on him. I thought when he was drafted, there would be some limitations. Again, as a slot receiver who might not be able to handle the physicality of this league. And that there would be a lot of potential with his speed, but he may have to have a reserved or a limited role. I'm not thinking that way anymore. I think Jalin Hyatt has blown that ceiling off of my expectations, and I think the sky's the limit for him. I think he can be as good as he wants to be. I really do. Really, really high quality young man, and I'm rooting for him because he's done everything he can to make himself better. All right. Thank you so much, Jay. All right. Unpopular opinion sports. Salute. P-Dot, beat reporter, best beat reporter on the beat. Well, I appreciate that. And salute to you, my man. Appreciate it. Grazie. You know, I've been doing this beat now for 42 years, right? I started covering the New York Giants back in the summer of 1983 when Bill Parcells became a first-year rookie Giants head coach. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I've learned an awful lot from some very, very smart football people. Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, George Young, Tom Coughlin, Ernie Accorsi. The list goes on and on. Steve Spagnuolo, John Fox, Ron Earhart, Kevin Gilbride. I could spend an hour telling you all the people over these 42 years that have taught me about the game of football and the business of football as well. And it has been my pleasure to learn that stuff and to hopefully pass that stuff on to you. So, my friend, thank you so much for those comments, and I appreciate it. And hopefully this program gives you guys more of a chance, because I know a lot of people on the Big Blue Kickoff show during the day when I'm on the Giants channel, a lot of people are intimidated about making that phone call. And quite honestly, you know, we have a co-host. It's not a solo show. So it's a little bit of a different atmosphere. And maybe we can't get into as many details or education type things that we're doing here on this program. It's one of the reasons why Sports Illustrated asked me to do this show. They figured, you know what? There's probably a lot more that you could tell people, and probably a lot of other people who have questions for you. And hopefully, you know, this will work out, and folks will like it and will want to learn. That's why we're here. All right. So thank you so much. Let's see here. Welcome to Big Pat's Sports Talk. Says, "Yup, I think so too." Well, I suppose that's probably what you were responding to before when I said I think the Giants are a 9-8 football team. I think that's probably what you were talking about, but I'm not 100% sure. But that's okay. All right, let me just take a very, very quick couple of seconds break, and I will be right back with some more of your comments. I see the chat room is still filling up, so don't go anywhere. This is going to be really, really fast here on Big Blue Breakdown Live, and we'll see you on the other side, okay? All right, back on the show. Just like I said, we have spots that we have to put in, commercials that have to be put into the program, and so those markers kind of let those advertisers know where they're going to be inserted into the program. Really, I'm taking you behind the scenes now. That's a little production talk right there. Okay, we're letting you guys in on that. I like to break the third wall. One of the things that I hope you folks enjoy, and you can let me know if you do. I don't want to be just a screen. I'm a people person. I've enjoyed what I do for a very, very long time, and I'm not afraid to share stuff with you guys as if you're sitting here on a stool with me, as opposed to on the other side of the screen. They call that the third wall in this business. That's the television screen. I believe that I talk through the third wall, and I'm trying to converse with you guys, even though you can only hit me up on a chat. I don't want to be removed and be that face behind the screen and just be a talking head. I hope that comes through, and I hope that's something that we're bringing, some environment of that type we're bringing to this program, and hopefully you guys really appreciate that. If you do, let me know. If you don't, then I'll be more monotone. I'll be more detached, and I won't let you guys in on if a phone rings or if I drop a pen or if I've got to look at my notes for something. I mean, I think that's real, and I'm a real guy. I'm a realist, and I kind of think that's part of the fun of doing this kind of stuff because we like to be real with people. All right, let's go to this one here. Let's see. David Torero. Dable said he knows who's starting at CB2 but wouldn't say. Who do you think is starting week 1? Well, I think to this point, right, Nick McCloud, at the moment may wind up starting week 1 unless Cordell Flott in the next week and a half is able to practice really, really well. The Giants wanted Flott to seize the job, and then he came down with a sore quad, and that cost him a couple of weeks. And so Nick McCloud had to step in as the Swiss Army knife and plug himself into the CB2 spot. I think it is still to be determined, but I think Flott is now going to have to wrestle away the job from Nick McCloud. And that's entirely possible in the next week and a half. So I think the honest answer, yeah, I think Dable knows how he's setting it up, and I think I'm accurate in what I'm saying to you. But even though that's the plan, it still doesn't tell you who the start is going to be against Minnesota today. Because I think the plan is that it can change. I hope I made sense. I hope so. If I didn't, I apologize. But I think what Dable understands is, and he realizes that there's a plan in place, and that is McCloud will probably start unless Flott wrestles it away from him in the next week and a half. I truly believe that's the plan. So maybe that's the clearest way I could say it for you, David. Okay, unpopular opinion sports. How do you think we do in the division? Well, it's very interesting because I do think that the gap between the Giants and the Eagles and the Cowboys has narrowed. I do. How much? I just don't know. I really don't know. I could see Philadelphia, winning 9 or 10 or maybe 11 games if things go really well for them. Same thing with Dallas. If everything falls into place, I don't think it will. But if it does, yeah, Dallas could probably win 10 games. Is it possible that Dallas and the Giants tie with 9 wins apiece, and now you go to a tiebreaker? Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I'm not big on the Cowboys. I know they just signed Dalvin Cook, but it's Dalvin Cook and Ezekiel Elliott. 2 guys who have either put a lot of mileage on their tires and or have dealt with significant injuries. And that is their 1-2 punch in the backfield. And that offensive line is not what it used to be. Okay. You see where I'm going? So, yeah, I could see Dallas finishing 9-8. Sure I could. And that could mean a tiebreaker against the Giants. And depends on what games you win, as I said before. I do think that Washington has to be picked 4th in the division. I mean, rookie quarterback, a whole new administration, everything down there has been turned upside down. They're gonna have to go through a lot of growing pains to get their sea legs under them. And I think it's great that the Giants play Washington in week 2 because as they're trying to find their way through the forest, the Giants should take advantage of them down in D.C. And I would feel very disappointed for the Giants if they did not come out of there with a victory. That's for sure. All right. Big Blue. Oh, we'll give you another chance here. Bellinger will be key at H-back. I'm sure you concur. Well, Bellinger needs to step up his game in year number 3 You know, we've talked about this. He's dealt with some injuries. He needs to build off of his flashes from his rookie season. Again, various reasons. I thought, and I think he would tell you that he was disappointed with his second year in the league. But now it's year 3. It's time to get back on the horse and continue that upward climb to becoming the bona fide quality NFL tight end that he can be. I think he'll get there. And it's important for the Giants that he does. Because right now, right behind him is Theo Johnson, the 4th-round pick, who obviously, you know, is going to make rookie mistakes, and he's going to have to grow into his spot. And Chris Manhertz. And Manhertz, you know, is basically a one-dimensional blocking tight end. So the Giants need Bellinger to develop and really dig into his potential in his 3rd NFL season. I think he's got that. I've said since he came to the Giants, I think he's Jake Ballard 2.0, and that's great. If you remember Jake Ballard, he helped the Giants get to a Super Bowl. Okay? He was a really good, solid, dependable, durable, all-around tight end. And I think that Bellinger is a Jake Ballard type. And I would love to see him, you know, blossom and really dig into his potential this year. All right, Big Blue, thank you so much. All right, let's see here. Watson Graves. What would you say to people who say the Giants have the worst team in the NFL this year? I don't know that they're worth the time to have that kind of conversation, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, no. The answer is no. They're not even the worst team in their division. I mean, seriously. Have you seen the Commanders roster? Are you aware of the trials and tribulations that they're going to have as they have totally turned over the wheelbarrow and tried to rebuild things in Washington? Are you at all aware of that? And they happen to be in the NFC East. So before you even talk about the rest of the league, there is a clear 4th place team in the NFC East, and it's the Washington Commanders. So if you can't see that, then there's no point in talking to you about the rest of the league and where the Giants place. There's just no point. None. Anyway, thank you so much for the comment, Watson. All right, let's see here. Rosario Guzzo. We need CB2 badly. It will bite us in the butt. Well, Rosario, here's the truth. Giants know that they need more experience at corner. They need someone they can turn to and rely on. Not necessarily a guy who can compete for a starting job, which would be nice, you suppose, because competition's good. Competition's supposed to bring out the best in whoever's competing. But here's the thing. Right now, let's just say the Giants go with Banks and Flott as the 2 starting corners. Well, what happens if either one of those 2 starters goes down? Now, if Flott gets hurt, you have Banks and McLeod. Okay, what if Tate Banks gets hurt? He is the Giants' #1 corner right now. If Tate Banks gets hurt, Flott and McLeod become your 2 starting corners. Now, you guys know I like both players. But at this stage of their careers, with McLeod being a Swiss Army knife, and learning slot, and learning boundary, and learning the safety spots, that's kind of unfair to him to expect him to be full-time for the year on the boundary, if called upon. It's also unfair to expect that Flott, who has dealt with injuries in his first 2 seasons, right, and has also been inside and outside, now has to become not just maybe a CB2, but thrust into action where he might have to be a CB1. Given the circumstances that he's been dealt now in his 3rd NFL season, that is an awful lot to ask from him. That is throwing him into the very deep end of the pool. And that probably, even more than anything else, is why the Giants really would like to get themselves a functional veteran corner. Because they'd like to have somebody who they know not only maybe can push and compete for a starting job, but if they get one of their guys hurt, they'd like to at least feel somewhat comfortable that they've got an experienced guy with a resume to throw out there. Like a Fabian Moreau, if you will. Right? You guys remember Fabian Moreau. We've talked about him before on this program and on Big Blue Kickoff Live. We've done that many times. That's the type of guy, that I think the Giants would love to get their hands on. But at this moment, we don't know. Again, GM Joe Shane, if you're joining us late, said there is a group of guys coming in to try out and work out tomorrow. For all I know, maybe there is a veteran corner with some credentials who's going to be working out for the team tomorrow. We don't know who the guys are coming in tomorrow, at least not yet. Obviously, at some point in time tomorrow, those names will filter their way out, and we'll find out. Heck, if they sign a guy, we'll know, obviously, who it is, right? All right, let's go here. Let's keep going. Ryan Davis. All right, Neighbors number 1. Jones is number 6, or number 8. 1 plus 8 equals 9. New York Giants have 4 Super Bowls. 9, 4, 5 Super Bowls, 5 coming this year. Oh, 9 minus 4 equals 5. Ryan, you are a numerologist, I see. I don't dabble much into numerology. I kind of dabble into X's and O's and tape and film work. But if your numerology comes up roses like that, by all means, play with the numbers and see what you get. That actually just broke right before this program started. And if you saw my Twitter account, at GiantsWFAN, Monique Neighbors reached an agreement with the Ray Flaherty family. Ray Flaherty was Giants number 1. Comes back from way back. He was the first ever professional football player to have his number retired. The Giants retired his number 1. And Malik Neighbors wanted the number 1. And they have come to an agreement. So the Giants will unretire Ray Flaherty's number 1 to allow Malik Neighbors to wear it with the Flaherty family's permission. So that's really cool. I did not get all of the details. Let me just say this. I did not get all of the details surrounding that story. I know the Giants put out the details, but I was busy trying to get this show on the air. So all I know is the news headline. I did not have a chance. And if I call up my information that came into me right now and read it, I would be rude because I'd be ignoring you guys. So I'm not going to do that. I'll simply tell you, as I've always said, I'll tell you what I don't know or what I can't tell you. I don't have the details on the transaction and what exactly happened that the Flaherty family is allowing the Giants to give the number 1 out to Malik Neighbors this season. And it's interesting because so many people attacked Graham Gano because he had number 9. And everybody thought that Neighbors wanted number 9. He wore 9 during the preseason. Well, I asked Malik, and Malik said he didn't want 9. I asked Graham Gano, and he said, no, Malik told me he doesn't want 9. And I've been trying to tell people, get the word out. He doesn't want 9. I would be willing to sell it to him. Turns out, Neighbors actually wanted 1. And so a deal has been reached. Malik Neighbors will be number 1. Okay. Ed Gladney. Coach Ed Gladney comes back again, wants to know thoughts on the offensive or the defensive line. D-line. Will they have a positive effect on the run game, taking away the run? Well, let me say this to you, Ed. Part of what the Giants hope to do, and this is very important when you play complementary football, you'd like to be in games on the scoreboard during the first half. The Giants, in most of recent vintage, have not only started off poorly in September with their 1-loss record, but they usually start off badly in the first quarter of games. And they're trailing. And when you're constantly playing from behind, you can't play complementary football. Everything about this game is a spider web. So the Giants hope that their improved offense will allow them to score some more points early in a game, that their improved defense, specifically their pass rush, is also going to help with field position and also keep games under control, thereby putting less pressure on the offense to do what they need to do to maybe steal some victories. This is complementary football. Of course, special teams also has a big hand in that too. I don't want to leave that out, or Jeff Fiegels will come after me and kick me in the butt, I might add. So, here's the thing. What you want to do, all right, if you're the Giants, you want to be able to move the ball effectively and get some points early in the game, and then put the other team in a position where maybe they've got to throw the ball a little bit more. Now, you've got Okereke and McFadden. You've got Dexter Lawrence. You've got Thibodeau and Burns, who, by the way, let me make something very clear to you. What makes Thibodeau and Burns such a terrific tandem, if you will, remember Black Panther and Spider-Man, they both play the run extremely well. Burns is a sensational pass rusher. Thibodeau's good at it. But in terms of pure pass rush skills, Burns is more dangerous right now. He's also got more experience. But both of these guys are two-way players who play the run effectively. That's what makes them so good. And we know Dexter Lawrence can play the run. And we know Bobby Okereke can play the run. And we know Micah McFadden made well over 100 tackles last year in his breakout season. So yes, do I think that the Giants will have a better rush defense? Yes, I do. And I also believe that complementary football and the flow of games will also prompt teams to maybe need to throw the ball a little bit more than they have in years past. And that also should play into the Giants' defense's hands. Best answer I can give you, Coach. I don't know if you coach football, basketball, baseball, or some other sport. But if you coach football, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. So thank you so much for the comment. Big Blue, change up. George Young versus Ernie Accorsi. Both great, with a capital G, great storytellers. Oh my God, could those guys tell stories? George Young was better at telling jokes than Ernie Accorsi was, but both guys, sports historians who could just mesmerize you with their nostalgic stories about the game and about the personalities that they had come into contact with over the years. And of course, George Young was a history teacher, so he could talk a lot of just pure history, not just sports. Two incredible men who I have the utmost of respect for. And I'm very proud and very fortunate and very glad to have been able to work very closely around both of those gentlemen. And they both taught me an awful lot about life and about football. And I can't say enough about how proud I was to see George Young inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame some years ago. It was well deserved, and what he did for the Football Giants franchise is beyond words. So yeah. All right, let me put that up there, Big Blue. I didn't get that up there. I didn't get your name up on the screen, and I don't want to cheat you out of that. All right. Okay. I'm not sure I understand that one, but okay. This show is second to the others. I'm not sure I get that one, Big Blue, but that's okay. Unpopular opinion sports. Nice production tip. I appreciate that. Okay. I'm not 100% sure what it was that I told you, but if you appreciate it, then I appreciate you. How about that? Cecil McCathern, what do you got for me? Watson, we won 6 games with DeVito. Well, no, that's actually incorrect. Tommy DeVito's record as a starting quarterback with the Giants was 3-3 last year. Now, I don't put much stock in starting quarterback records, one-loss records. Anybody who knows me knows I think that is a total fugazi statistic. Okay, I'm going to take a term out of Tommy DeVito's playbook. That's a fugazi stat. But yeah, I get your point. They won 6 games last year with 3 different quarterbacks playing, including Tommy, who went 3-3. It's not too much to think about how that team last year could have easily won 2 more games if Daniel Jones had stayed healthy and played the rest of the season. I'm sure they would have won at least 8 games. I mean, we know about some of the highly, and I'm going to be really nice here because I don't want the NFL to come after me, but 3 highly questionable calls at the end of the Jets game, and I'll leave it to you to determine another adjective that flat out took the game away out of the W column. But that's another story. So really, I look at the Giants as a 7-win team last year, not a 6-win team. But aside from that, that's Cecil, 3-3 under DeVito last year, just to make sure we got that square. All right. Oh, my goodness. Look at these comments keep coming in. I'm going to try to get to all of these things. I mean, look. Oh, it's almost 9 o'clock already. Wow. I am going to get to all your comments. I promise you that. I wasn't necessarily going to go longer than an hour tonight, but I might have to. Just looking back at history, since this is Giants 100 season, do you think Eli had another season in him if we had a better offensive line? Jay, I don't run from anything that I've ever said. Again, I've covered this team for 42 years. I don't say things just for the fun of it. And I don't say things, specifically analysis or opinions, without having something substantial behind it. I said it then, and I'll say it now. I think Eli Manning had at least one more quality season in him as a starting NFL quarterback. And I know in recent years, Twitter and the anger and the toxin from certain groups on Twitter have come after me hard for the following. They've come after me hard for my belief in Daniel Jones's skill set and talent. Fine. We have a difference of opinion. I think he's more talented than that group does. Okay? Why can't we just disagree on that? Let's just agree to disagree. There's a group out there that thinks Daniel Jones does not have enough talent to hold this job. I happen to think he does. The Giants happen to think he does. And so we're going to find out this year. This is the fork in the road year for Daniel Jones. Either he produces at a level that keeps him here, or he does not. And then the Giants will be forced to make a decision, in all likelihood, to move on. Okay, so let it play out this year and we'll see. It's really, I mean, there's no reason to be angry or to be disgusted or to, throw toxin or acid at somebody. But that's just the way it is these days, unfortunately. Another issue, Eli Manning. John Mara himself, owner of the team, when Daniel Jones was drafted, and I did not think that the Giants needed to draft a quarterback that year, okay? Because I thought that that Eli Manning had another good year in him, that the problem was the offensive line in front of him. It wasn't him. Eli easily had at least another year in his arm. There's no question in my mind about that. Absolutely none whatsoever. And even John Mara said that if Daniel Jones never took the field as a rookie, that'd be fine with him because it meant the Giants were doing well, Eli was doing well, and we'll take it from there. You see, there's nothing wrong with the rookie quarterback sitting for his first season. Heck, there's nothing wrong with a rookie quarterback sitting for the first 2 years of his career. And that would have been better for the Giants had the team around Eli been better. Eli could have played for another year or two. Daniel Jones could have sat, watched, and learned. And the entire trajectory of this organization could have been different. But that's not the way it played out. So that's my answer to you, Jay. And I know a lot of people don't like that. They disagree, but instead of just saying, okay, we agree to disagree, they got to get all angry and all bent out of shape. So that's the other item. And then the third item that bent people out of shape was that Dave Gettleman. I thought if you graded Dave Gettleman in real time with his decisions, I think to be fair, he does not get the F that a lot of critics want to give him. I think you could probably give him a C because he did make some very logical decisions and he also made some very poor decisions. But circumstances really derailed him. And the biggest thing that people took shots at me on was that when he was in his last season as the general manager and he had come through cancer, and I had said to people, all right, and I'm just being straight up with you folks, and I'd said, all right, and it's conveniently being clipped out of context, but I had said on WFAN that I think that he should stay. Part of what people cut out when they attack me on that is that the reason was I thought he did make a split decision in terms of his reasonable calls, but more importantly, Joe Judge at that time in the middle of that season as it was playing out, it looked like Joe Judge might stay for a third season. And what I tried to explain, and people just decided not to listen to it, was that you don't want to split up your general manager with your head coach. If you do that, you basically are almost for sure going to head into an iceberg. So that it looked like at that moment when I was asked the question about Dave Gettleman, it looked like Joe Judge, and at that point Daniel Jones was still healthy. He wound up getting hurt that weekend, and then the Giants wound up going bad because they had to put Mike Glennon in at quarterback. You guys will remember that, right? I mean, holy smokes. So they had to put Glennon and Jake Fromm in at quarterback. And the season went in the tank. So then Judge was gone and Gettleman retired. Okay, fine. Fine. The team needed a reset. Fine. But in the middle of that season, when Jones was still healthy in the starting quarterback, it looked like Joe Judge was going to possibly get a third year. And the last thing in the world that you want to do is bring Joe Judge back for a third year and then have a new general manager. My biggest and most important comment got left out of context. Nobody, as they continued to flap their gums around on Twitter, was complete in the primary reason that I said that Gettleman should stay is because it's bad business in the NFL 9 times out of 10 to split your head coach and your general manager. And if Judge is coming back, then Gettleman probably should too. Because if you hire a new GM, then chances are there's going to be some dysfunction between the coach next year and the new GM. So you might as well let them get out of the pandemic situation, which they did the first year they had to deal with, right? Then there was the second year. And we thought that Judge was going to get a third year. Well, under that assumption, it made sense to be congruent with the general manager. I know I went off track. I apologize. I just went into some other explanations. But those are 3 things. I will not run from any of what I said. I stand on it even today. But there are those simply want to disagree and have decided that they need to scream holy high hell about it. Okay. That's your prerogative. You can if you like. But I don't run from anything. I've been here 42 years covering the team. And I won't run from anything that I've said. Because I believe in what I've said. And I know it's got some substance behind it. So anyway, thank you so much, Jay, for your question. It sparked a little bit of a trip down memory lane for me. On 3 very, very hot topics that I know groups of fans have come after me hard for. And that's okay. Again, I don't mind. It's just a shame that it's got to be that way. And people just can't simply agree to disagree. Whatever. All right, Ryan, what has happened for Daniel to prove he's the guy? What has to happen? I think it's 3,500 yards and 25 to 30 touchdowns with 9 wins and a playoff appearance and victory. Ryan, I think I go back to what I told you earlier. I think the Giants could be a 9-8 team and not make the playoffs. You know, the tiebreakers work that way. So here's what I'm going to say. I don't put stats into this equation. What I do put, can Daniel Jones stay healthy and play a full season, or heck, if he misses 1 game, I don't think we should, send off an earthquake ripple throughout the Meadowlands. But let's see him stay healthy, play a healthy season, and let's see the Giants put some W's up on the board. Again, if they win 9 games and he's healthy throughout the season and plays well doing it, I'm not about the stats. I mean, Phil Simms did not have great stats when he won. Jeff Hostetler did not have great stats when he won. Eli's stats weren't always super spectacular, but he won. I'm not going to put stats as the requirement for Daniel Jones to make it back to the Giants in 2025. What I'm going to say is he needs to be healthy and play a full season or almost a full season, and he needs to look good doing it. The Giants need to be, they need to be a team that's right around 500 and shows that they are on the ups. I think that's probably the best way to say it. I don't know that there's a better way, because you can't put numbers on a decision like this. Numbers don't work. You'll know it. You'll know it when you see it. If Daniel Jones authors 4 come-from-behind victories in the 4th quarter and the Giants finish 8-9, Well, let's face it, those circumstances, that's probably going to bode well for him. So that's about the best way I can answer it, Ryan. There are so many different ways to answer this. You'll know. You'll know. If he plays like Joe Pisarcik, I don't know. I don't know how old you are, but if he plays like Joe Pisarcik or if he plays like Tommy Maddox, I think you'll know. Now, on the other hand, if he plays like Kerry Collins, I think you know he belongs. How about that? How about that just for an easy answer? Appreciate the question. All right, let me see here. I got to take another real quick break. And I'll be back to finish off with your comments in just a second. Stay tuned. You're watching the Big Blue Breakdown live as part of the New York Giants on SI Media Network. All right, we're back. Let's see what we have here. Oh my, so many questions, so many comments. How am I going to get to these in the next half hour? All right. Let me try to go a little quicker here. Chris Capyrus, I believe, Chris, that's your name, and I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong. Nick Gates was let go. That was by Philadelphia. Do you think the Giants would have any interest in him? I don't think so. Nick's a little older now. He's got a lot of injury history. I think the Giants are pretty satisfied with the offensive line room that they have right now. I think they want to give these guys a crack at doing what they need to do. So I'd probably say no. But here's what I will say, and I tweeted this out on @GiantsWFAN, which is my Twitter page. I hope that Nick Gates gets another chance, because after all he's been through and fought back from so much, I hope he gets to go out of the NFL on his own terms. And being cut by the Eagles yesterday is not his own terms. So I hope he gets another chance with somebody and he can go out how he wants to go out. That I am definitely hoping for, because he's one hell of a guy, and man, talk about guts, bravery, and intestinal fortitude. Nick Gates has all of it, overflowing, even more so than his hair. I don't even know if he's got long hair these days. I haven't seen him in so long. Cecil McCathern. NFL records are determined by the passing game, not the running attack. Well, Cecil, there's no question that it's much more of a passing league right now than it was years ago. I mean, there's absolutely no question about that. None. And I think the Giants are going to lean more on the passing game and specifically use a lot more short passes and yak yardage, yards after the catch, as a pseudo part of their running game. I'm sure of that. I feel very confident that that's going to be the way their game plan leans. So I don't necessarily disagree with you. Where I do disagree, and maybe it's not a disagreement, maybe you just didn't have room to type it, you have to have an effective and efficient and a functional running game in key spots, because the flow of the game and complementary football requires you to have a running game when you need to run in order to be successful. You've got to be able to run a 4-minute offense and use the run to move the chains, whether it's to milk a lead or whether it's to just play the clock so that you have the last possession at the end of a half or at the end of a game. Or for that matter, if you're just trying to beat down a smaller team, you want to be able to run it, pound it, smash mouth it, and wear that team down, especially if they got a pass rush. If you can beat on those front guys along the trenches, you could take some of the bite out of their pass rush. So there are times you still need to have an effective and an efficient running game. That will never change in this league. Never. No matter what anybody tells you about it being a passing league, you still have to be able to run the ball effectively in certain situations. And if you can't, well, then you really wind up, trying to climb out of quicksand. And that's no fun. Kevin Powell says, Big Blue, 11 wins. Kevin, my goodness, that would be marvelous, as Frank Sinatra used to say. I don't know what you got in your glass tonight, but 11 wins. Hey, here's a toast. That would be real sweet. I think that's high, but that would be real sweet. John Morano with a thumbs up. Cool. Danny pick 6 duds. Hey, Paul, you tired of defending DJ as much as we are calling him out? We are exhausted. Oh, yeah. Believe me, I am exhausted. But I do what I believe is right. And I will stand up for what I see and for what I know. And is it exhausting? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I don't know why people just can't back down and say, let the guy play this year. The Giants have given him the ball. He's fully healthy. Joe Shane and Brian Dable today said they don't even think about his health anymore. They're beyond that. He's proven he's healthy. He's proven he's ready to go. Joe Shane simply said, like any other quarterback, you worry about them getting hurt, and that's it. There is no additional worries about Daniel Jones's physical condition. So you know what? He's the starting quarterback of this team. Sit back and watch the games unfold. Daniel Jones will tell you with his performance in 2024 whether or not he should be back in 2025. So why did you just wait and see and chew on the games as they unfold? What's wrong with that? I just don't understand why the critics have to beat their drums every 5 seconds against a guy. I don't understand that. I'm simply telling you, let it play out this year. I can't guarantee you that it's going to work out for Daniel Jones. I can't. Is it my opinion that it will? Yes, it is my opinion that it will. And if it's your opinion that it won't, that's okay. We can agree to disagree. That's fine. But why do people have to pound their feet into the ground and cause an earthquake to go after this guy when they haven't even played one game yet this season? That makes absolutely no sense and is the biggest waste of energy that you could possibly execute. Anyway, Danny, thanks for the comment. Kevin Powell, I think Dallas and Philadelphia is going to take a step back. Yep. Wouldn't surprise me at all, Kevin. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Who has the best pass rush on paper in this division? Have you heard me talk about Lawrence, Thibodeau, and Burns enough yet? I think I've already answered your question. And that's from QB Oro brother. I'm not sure I understand that handle. But in any event, I think you know where I'm coming from on that one. All right. Danny picked 6 duds. All right, here we go. Here we go. Hope the Giants can finally draft a quarterback. He won't let it go because he's got nothing better to do with his time. All right, it is. Let you have your comment there. Hope the Giants can finally draft a quarterback we can all believe in. Well, you could believe in this guy, but you've chosen not to. That's your problem, not his. Hope all we can ask for at this point. Who do you like coming out? Can't wait to see what these college quarterbacks do. Haven't even looked at any of the college quarterbacks right now. No reason for me to do that. But thanks very much for another chime in. All right, let's see here. Oh, look at this. Watson Graves, how about that? Giants fan forever, throws $2 in the till. Well, that's awfully nice of you, Watson. Thank you very much. In fact, we're going to put a little nice thank you here on the screen and send that out to Watson. Thank you so much. That's awfully kind of you. Very much appreciate that. I know the folks who run this page are always interested to see if any folks feel compelled to do something like that. It tells them a lot about the programming that Sports Illustrated is putting up on the internet. G Nation Inside Sports, Mr. P. Dot. Good evening, sir, he says. Well, I say good evening to you too. And it is a good evening. We're talking Giants football. Come on. What could be better than that? Okay, let's see. Oh. I got to find out how to pronounce QB Oro brother. I got to find out exactly how it is he wants to pronounce that, but he goes edge monsters. Well, you're right. Thibodeau and Burns are edge monsters. Oh, Big Blue. I messed up, Paul. Second to none. Okay. Again, very kind. I know this. No one has been covering the New York Football Giants longer than I have. 42 consecutive years. It's the longest active streak on the beat. And unofficially, it just might be the longest active consecutive streak in the National Football League. I don't know that for a fact. As I've been going around the last couple of years with the Giants on road trips, I've been checking with every city. I don't know that there's anybody who has a longer consecutive year streak than my 42 years. But, hey, if someone has official notification of that, I'll be very glad to bow to them, tip my cap, and say, you got me. But I'm coming for you. I promise you, I'm coming for you. All right. Here we go. Gary Gaston. Hi, P. Dot. Did you guys know the neighbors was trying to get number one even though it was retired? Well, that's what we told you about earlier in the program. Ray Flaherty's family has acquiesced, and they're allowing the Giants to unretire the one so that Malik Neighbors can have the number one this season. That news literally broke that it was going to be happening like 2 minutes before our show started tonight. So all I know is that it happened. I don't have the storyline behind it because I haven't had time to catch up on reading it, as the Giants did send me information on it, but I had to get to you folks. So better that I talk to you and do the program than, literally sit here and read all the notes that the Giants just sent me. I don't want to do that. You guys would rather have this conversation, so that's why I can't. All right. Let's see what we have here. Let's see here. Well, all right. You know what? Danny Pick6 Dodds, I'm just going to let this go up here for just a second, and only because it proves the point that I had come with earlier. People forget Eli put up 4,300 passing yards in his last season in 2018. Yeah, Danny, that's why I thought Eli Manning had at least another good year in him. Okay? You just served to prove my point. Yes. Had the circumstances around the Giants been better, Eli Manning should have played for at least another year as the starter. So thank you. Thank you so much for fortifying my belief in Eli for another year. It didn't happen. Those are the breaks. I feel bad. I'm glad he retired as only a Giant, though, and didn't go anywhere else to play. All right. Wow. Look at all these comments. You guys are unbelievable. Big Lou. Can Chapman be our third down back? Well, Elijah Chapman came out of SMU, and they had a package installed for him to be a fullback, if necessary, on the other side of the ball. I don't know if the Giants will use him as such or not this season. Maybe they'll give it a chance. Maybe they won't. Remember, Nikita Whitlock was an undersized defensive tackle. He was a fullback, but also did some three-technique defensive tackle stuff to rush the passer and give the Giants a change-up look with a much smaller guy in the defensive line. Now, Chapman is not 255, I think is what Whitlock was. Chapman's more like 287. Do I think it's possible that you'll see Chapman line up as a fullback a few times? I don't think so. I think it's more likely they'll use Bellinger back there as an H-back, or they'll use Chris Manhertz, who they bought. Remember, he was a Denver Bronco. They brought him in specifically to be a blocking tight end. And he is one big mountain of a man himself. Very boxcar kind of frame. I think between Bellinger and Manhurts, I don't think they're going to see a reason to put Chapman in the offensive backfield. Now, when they first signed him, I thought maybe, that might be kind of a fun thing because they did have a package for him at SMU. But no, I'd say right now, G Nation Inside Sports, I don't think that that's going to happen. Okay. Danny wants to chime back in again. See, all right, now you're trying to have intelligent conversation, so I'm okay with that. I wanted Giants to go with Eli in 2019 and then draft Herbert in 2020. Well, the problem, if Eli played as the Giants starter in 2019, even though there were still a lot of holes on the squad, they probably would not have been in a position to draft Justin Herbert. And to be frank with you, I'm even forgetting it right now exactly what year he came out. But the problem is, Justin Herbert is, and by the way, Herbert was my favorite quarterback in that draft when he did come out of college. But you got to remember, the problem here is that, and he did come out in 2020, the problem here is that the Giants would have never been that high on the draft board if Eli had played, that they could have gotten their hands on Herbert. So that's something you got to take into account too. That's why revisionist history is so bad. Everybody can do 20/20 hindsight and play Monday morning quarterback and say, well, this is what you should have done, and this is what went wrong. You know what a wimp's way out it is to talk that way? It really is. Be a man. Stand on your own 2 feet. And I'm not talking about you, Danny, right now. But people who play hindsight all the time, they couldn't be more wimpy. What you got to do is go back into real time, reverse the calendar, go back to the time that the decision was made, analyze exactly what the facts were at that time, and see what the rational options were at that time. Then tell me, what would you have done and why? And again, maybe we can agree to disagree. But as long as the option that you chose was rational and logical and had some beef to it, well then it's perfectly okay to say that would have been my decision. And you know what? If it worked out or it didn't work out, that's the breaks. That's how life treats things. You can't have revisionist history and because it didn't work out, go back and say, oh, that was the wrong decision. That made no sense. That was stupid. Never should have done that. Duh. Every time something goes wrong, don't you all wish out there in computer land, anytime something went wrong, don't you wish that you could have hindsight, go back and hit the rewind button and erase it and make sure that you always pick the right decision? I mean, it is so shallow and wimpy to base a criticism on Monday morning quarterback evidence. That I will never tolerate. I will never tolerate that from anybody. I'm sorry. If you want to come through with something, tell me in real time why you thought that and what your basis of the thought was for that decision. And I'll be glad to converse and listen to it. And I might even say, hey, you know what? I understood exactly why you said that. Maybe I agree to disagree, but you had a really good idea and there was rationale behind it. And hey, I tip my cap to you. That was a really well thought out decision. But don't come at me with a second guess or a Monday morning quarterback. And that's what most people do. And that's how you get blocked on my Twitter page, to be honest with you. Because they're just foolish and disrespectful. Anyway. Mike G says, hey, what's up, my fellow paisan, Paulie D? Hey, my man, I'm doing okay. What's going on with you? Kelly Sanville says, love the show. Love the New York Giants. We all bleed blue. Hey, thank you so much, Kelly. Wow, I'm trying to get to the bottom of these. Here we go. Hey, Paul, do you think Tracy and Johnson will have big roles versus Minnesota? I think during the course of the season, you will see Tracy and Johnson increase their importance to this offense. But in week 1 against the Vikings, I'm not so sure. I do think it's possible that each of these guys will flash early in the season. But I can't say that they will consistently be keys to the offense until later on. It's a little too early right now to expect a 4th and a 5th round draft choice right out of the box to become an important factor consistently in the first few weeks of the season, especially when you have a veteran like Singletary ahead of Tracy and you have a veteran like Bellinger ahead of Johnson. So that's my answer to you, Gary. Appreciate your thoughts. Okay. Let's see here. Big Pat Sports Talk. What do you think of Tyler Nubin can handle being a ball hawk safety this year? Handle it. He's going to be really good at it. Question is, when? I think you're going to see some 3 safety package because the Giants really like Jason Pinnock. He's got some experience back there. He's smart. He helps line guys up. He's very durable and very dependable. They really like very much what Dane Belton has done, even though he's had some injuries early in his career. You've heard Shane Bowen say a couple of weeks ago it was his job to lose. So I think you're going to continue to see a lot of Dane Belton, and I think you're going to wind up seeing a lot of Tyler Nubin too. So it's not going to surprise me if you see a lot of these 3 safeties. I think it's going to depend on individual matchups each and every week, how much 3 safeties they play. And at some point, unless Belton holds off Nubin, which he certainly has the capability to do, I don't know, for a month, for 2 months, maybe the whole season, who knows? What a great problem to have for the Giants. They've got 3 guys who are really talented at safety. And there's an awful lot of potential. Nubin may have the highest ceiling and the most amount of potential, but that's not to say that Pinnock is not good, because Pinnock is a good player. And Dane Belton is also a really good player too. All right, let's see here. Oh, Queensboro. Queensboro brother. Yeah, see? Now he spelled it out for me. Now I got you. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Real Cold G. How have you maintained so positive through these tough years for the Giants? Okay, this is a very important question that I hope people understand. In context, okay, you have media people who are very interested in drawing attention to themselves or just want to go with the flow. If things aren't going well, then they'll just beat on the team because they think that that's what the fans want to hear, and it will satisfy the fans and make their articles and their Twitter pages more popular. And if things are going well, then they'll reverse and they'll go well. A lot of that just has to do with how they want to be perceived. In all my years, I have never done that. I've spent a tremendous amount of time learning this game, not only on the field and X's and O's, but from a coaching perspective, a GM perspective, a scout's perspective, the business of the game. I spent an awful lot of time learning all the different angles of the National Football League. And my mission as a beat reporter, covering the New York Giants, I'm not into breaking stories, being the first one to get the clicks out there, because I'm not interested in how many clicks my page gets. I'm not interested in how many followers the page gets. I'm interested in the integrity of the job and doing it correctly, using journalistic sense, analysis, and knowledge and experience to hopefully bring enhanced enjoyment to every fan out there who has taken the time to invest their interest in pro football and the Giants organization. Now, what I do, I think anybody can complain and say a team is bad, or a player is horrible, or a player is hurt. Anybody can do that. It doesn't take knowledge, it doesn't take experience, it doesn't take intelligence. Anybody can just beat on a team or a player when they're down. That's pretty simple. And I get it. People want to air their frustrations and they want to read those things because it filters in to what they're thinking. Okay. I have a totally different approach. Because I'm not interested and I don't live by clicks and I don't live by followers, because I live by the job and I believe that I do the job with integrity. What I do is this. I look at what's happening. I see the positives, I see the negatives, and what I try to do is to provide the fans as a conduit. I try to provide the fans with some insight and analysis as to what is going on to cause the problem. Instead of just talking about, oh, this is terrible, this guy can't play, this guy doesn't have this guy doesn't have that. I try to explain to you, because I have the ability with the years I have and obviously the access that I have, to go inside and to peel back the layers of the onion and go a lot further than the surface. And I can find out why. What are the many factors that are involved into this result? And then what I try to do is I try to bring those factors to the surface so that you folks out there can then fairly say, all right, this guy's really not playing well, but there are a number of different reasons, and I'll let you judge for yourself if those reasons are valid, if they deserve a lot of weight, or if they don't deserve any weight at all. But I will unearth those reasons, and I will tell you, does it have to do with the game plan? Does it have to do with some of the coaching style? And maybe he's not meshing with the guy. Or maybe the guy has a lot more injuries than people are letting on. Or maybe it's because there was a certain matchup that just didn't favor this guy, and that's why he didn't play well, because guess what? He can't play against the speed rusher. And he has trouble with the speed rusher, and he's faced the speed rusher 3 weeks in a row. Maybe that's why this guy's not doing well. So what I try to do is present a more full picture to the fans so that you guys can listen to that. Not yell and scream about it, not discount it, but you can digest it and figure out for yourself how this is happening. The other thing that I try to do is to take the coach's mentality. I try to put myself in the coach's shoes or the general manager's shoes and say, okay, this is what's going wrong. How can it be fixed? And what I will do, unlike people who just want to bellyache or media that just want to bellyache, I will try to present options to you. As I try to put all my years of football experience together, I will try to present options to you and say, okay, listen, this is what's happening. This is why. These are some of the options that they may be able to try to help make it better. And if there are none, then I'll tell you, geez, I just don't think there's a whole lot they can do. They're going to have to hope for the best here, that this guy gets his act together and performs at a higher level, because he's just not getting it done. If that's the case, I'll tell you that. But that's how I approach the job. Most people don't approach it that way. They're too interested in either just complaining, belly aching, going with the flow. I peel back the layers of the onion. And that's my answer. That's my answer, a real cold G. That's my answer. Because I'm in a never-ending quest to try to find explanations for what's going poorly and trying to find, like the GM or the coach, trying to find what are the ways that they might be able to dig out of it. That's where I focus my energies. And I share those thoughts with the fans, thinking that maybe you guys want to be able to think about that stuff too, because that's a heck of a lot more productive than just slamming your fist on the table saying, this guy stinks, get rid of this guy. Because, quite frankly, things are not that simple in the National Football League. That's not the way it works. Anyway, I hope that answer explains it to you, but that's my approach, and that's how I go about doing my job. Big Blue, let's go Giants fans. Join the VIP crew. Well worth it. New member. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but Big Blue, I appreciate it. I'm assuming I'll have to check with my bosses over at SI. I think being a VIP member with a green stripe, I think that means something very, very good. And so I very much appreciate that, and I'm grateful that you feel as though what we're doing is worthwhile. Okay, let's see. Gary Gaston, because Ryan. Let's see. Ryan says Danny Dudge is like 1/5 on trying to make a good point. He's on all the other guys' Giants pages trashing DJ. It's okay. Look, if he needs to do what he needs to do, it's fine. I'd rather he not waste his time doing that here. If he wants to have legit conversation, figure out what the reality is and how the reality might get better, that's fine. If he just wants to slam, he's better off going somewhere else. Because that's, again, I'm not in the slamming business. I'll tell you when it's wrong, but I'm going to try to offer options and solutions, because that's a heck of a lot more productive. And quite frankly, folks, it's also a lot more fun, and it keeps you sane rather than just beating down on something all the time. What good is that? What fun is that? I don't understand it. Gary, let's see. I am cool with the safeties, but the corners I am worried about. Who's your CB2? Again, I know they wanted Cordell Flott to seize the job, but just hasn't happened yet because of the injury situation. Hey, we got a lot of people still here, and we still got a couple more comments. So I'm going to take another quick break. Let me get this commercial thing in here, and I'm coming right back, so don't go anywhere. And we're going to take a real quick timeout and back with more Big Blue Breakdown live in just a couple of seconds. All right. Let's see here. Ryan Davis continues. Great show, Paul. Thank you for your time. Look, I told you, I wish I could talk Giants 25 hours a day. My voice isn't holding up too good, though, tonight. And I got to do Big Blue Kickoff Live tomorrow, too. Welcome to Big Pat Sports Talk, says Facts. Well, I'm not sure what that is regarding, but I believe in facts. I do. And if there's one thing that I know, all facts have to have context, which is why a lot of times people who go to these mathematicians' grading boards, and you know who I'm talking about if you know anything about me, too much of that stuff is out of context. All right. Big Blue. I believe you spent more time at Giants 1925 Giants draft than the coaching staff. Thanks and good night. Big Blue, thank you. The answer is no. Now, I've been around the franchise for 42 straight seasons. So yes, in that regard, I've been around longer than anybody in the coaching staff. But no, this current coaching staff, they live it, they breathe it, and these guys are doing everything they can to get this thing right. And I tell you, I have great respect for them right now. All right, Real Cold G. Appreciate the answer, Paul. Always appreciate your honesty and perspective on the Giants. Always enjoy me on New York Giants Rush. Yeah, I've been a guest on that program a few times. They show respect. They're very nice guys. They're great fans. They have frustration too, just like everybody else. But they're willing to listen, and I think they're also willing to try to find things that could potentially be answers. I mean, isn't that the only productive way to do this job? I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'm just amazed at how many people don't take this approach. But it's the only approach that I've ever taken for 42 years, and it's the only one I will continue to take. Oh, Robert Mead. Giants did Coughlin and Eli wrong. Now they're cursed. Well, look, I don't know about a curse, but what I do know is this. The Giants did have a bunch of transactions that did not work out over the course of time. Some of them were logical. Some of them maybe weren't. But certainly a bunch of them that were logical wound up going bad. Not because they were poor decisions, but because circumstances got in the way. That certainly burned Tom Coughlin. Again, not through any fault of his. And certainly Eli Manning was also victimized by that as well. To say the Giants did them wrong, I think circumstances did both Eli and Tom a disservice. Circumstances more than anything else. Because I know how much respect the Giants organization has for both Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning. And both of those gentlemen unequivocally should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I hope I'm there the day that those guys get inducted. I certainly plan on being there. So thank you, Robert, for the item. All right, we're almost done here, and I guess I don't remember if I put another commercial break in. I think we're done with them. Wants to know. Let's see. Here we go. Queensboro again has another one. He wants to know, who is your X factor on special teams? Well, my man, here's the problem with that. Right now, we're not even sure who the starting special teams unit is. Now, we know there's a bunch of guys here. Coughlin, McFadden, Muasau, Whitley. They'll all be specials. Belton's probably going to be on specials. I would expect, let's see. Ford Wheaton will be on specials. You know, I bet you Newman might even play some specials. I don't know for sure right now exactly what the Giants special teams unit's going to be week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings. I just don't know. But once we figure out exactly what the special teams unit's going to be, and we'll know that more next week, maybe we could talk about it. I mean, if McLeod is the starting CB2, I don't know. Can they afford to play him on all the specials? If he's got to start at CB2, I think that's one of the reasons why they also wanted Flott to win the job, so that McLeod did not have to expend so much gas on being a CB2. So I don't have an answer for you right now, but we'll figure that out soon enough. Real Cold G comes back again. Last one. What's it like being around LT? He's my all-time favorite player. Lawrence Taylor was a character. There's no other way around it. He was an incredible character and the greatest defensive player who has ever played in the National Football League. I got along great with Lawrence Taylor. There were probably 5 or 6 people in the media who he was respectful of and never really gave a hard time to. There were other people. Lawrence was a very moody individual. And there were times that he would be obnoxious or rude or short. But there was a handful of us, Vinny Detrani of the Bergen Record, Russ Salzberg from Channel 9, Jerry Eisenberg from the Star Ledger, Dave Anderson from the New York Times, and myself. As far as I know, none of those people ever had trouble having a conversation or an interview with Lawrence Taylor. In fact, he never once turned me down. And furthermore, anytime I ever asked to set one up with him, he always followed through and never canceled on me. So that's what I could tell you about Lawrence Taylor. All right. K Saint, jumping on late, Paul, but what are your thoughts on Neighbors getting number 1? Again, that news broke 2 minutes before the show. I was given the information that he was going to get the number 1, that had been retired. The first football player in history to have his pro football player to have his number retired was Ray Flaherty of the Giants, number 1. Neighbors wanted it. There was conversation with the Flaherty family. I don't know the details because I was trying to get this show up and running, but I know of what happened. They agreed that Malik Neighbors could wear the number 1 and bring it out of retirement for the Giants. So I'm sure you'll get a chance to read about it if you haven't, online or in the papers tomorrow. At this point, all I know is I got the information, but I have not had a chance to go through it and read all the details. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool, and I think it's cool that permission was asked and that the family was willing to go for it. I think that's probably best for everybody. But again, I don't have the details. There may be a little more to the story, which I will read once I sign off with you guys, which I'm going to do in the next few minutes. I have to be honest with you, because now it does seem like we have finally reached the end of the line with our questions. Robert Mead says 100% agree. First ballot Hall of Famers, obviously talking about Eli Manning and Tom Coughlin. 62 T-Bird Man. Well, that's interesting. I'm guessing that has to do with the car that you probably own. Problem with the Giants is that they are too stubborn. They didn't try moving Flowers to guard, and now the same thing with Neal. He could be an all-pro guard. 62 T-Bird Man, this is what I was just talking about a half hour on this program. See, the Giants did ask Eric Flowers to play guard, and he refused. Now, I know you probably didn't read that because a lot of the writers either didn't want to write it or didn't know it. But the Giants asked Eric Flowers to try to see if he would play guard. And he said, no, I'm not a guard, I'm a tackle, and I'm not playing guard. Well, it's funny because when the Giants finally cut bait and decided to set him free, and maybe he realized that his NFL career was now hanging by a piece of dental floss, he suddenly decided, after going to, I guess, Washington and Miami, he played for a couple of teams after the Giants. Oh, guess what? I want to stay in the league. It's okay. You can move me to guard. Yeah. It's amazing how circumstances can sometimes move somebody's stubbornness. So, my man, that's what I'm talking about. Giving you complete context, giving you the complete picture, giving you the full information so that maybe you can now have an opinion based on the whole story instead of what's not the whole story. So, in any event, well, let's see. We got a few more minutes to go. Let me go through this. The Giants have another practice tomorrow. Then they've got Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, and then they come back and practice again on Monday. Now, that's not because Brian Daboll wants to give the guys off. It's because of the CBA and the labor negotiations with the National Football League Players Association. They are mandatory. We have a bye week between the cutdown day to 53, the roster cutdown, and the first regular season game. You know, years ago when I started doing this job, there was no bye week between the final cuts and the first regular season game. That bye week did not exist. And in fact, you would make your cuts on a Tuesday, have to deal with your waiver claims on a Wednesday, and then hurry up and practice those guys for a couple of days, and then they had to play in a game on Sunday. Unbelievable, right? But somehow, they got it done. God knows how, right? But the coaches got it done. Maybe that player only played, a small percentage of the snaps, but that's how it worked in those days. That's not the way it is now. That's not the way it is now. Nowadays, well, they got the bye week between the last cut and opening day. So in any event, I think that's pretty much it for tonight's program. Unless somebody else wants to chime in for one more comment, I'll be glad to answer. Because I will take this up another minute or two. Yeah, we could take it up another minute or two if somebody else wants to fire in. We will be back. For all of you who were with us tonight, thank you so much for your attention. We did a full 2-hour show because you guys just wouldn't let me leave the computer. We'll be back next Wednesday. Again, 8 p.m. Eastern Time next Wednesday with another live Big Blue breakdown. And we'll take your comments and your questions, and we'll talk some more Giants football as they begin to get ready for the Minnesota Vikings. Wow. You believe it? The season is almost here. How cool is that? Great stuff. I'm Paul Dottino. You've been watching the Big Blue Breakdown live as part of the New York Giants on SI Media Network. We'll see you again next time, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.